I always hear a screaming voice from my neighbor since I shifted to the new house. It was a constant presence in my life, haunting my nights and sending chills down my spine. The voice echoed through the walls, piercing the silence with its eerie intensity. But for some reason, I never mustered the courage to go over and ask why the screaming sound was coming from their house. During the day, everything seemed normal. There were no signs of any unusual activity, and my neighbors appeared to be just like any other ordinary family. However, as the clock struck midnight, the piercing screams would begin, as if some unimaginable horror had taken hold of the house next door. One fateful night, when sleep eluded me for reasons unknown, I decided to distract myself by reading a book. Sitting in the dimly lit room, I buried myself in the pages, desperately trying to escape the haunting cries that resonated from the neighboring abode. But no matter how engrossed I became in the words before me, I couldn't shake off the dreadful sound that permeated the air. Suddenly, as if on cue, the chilling screams intensified, sending shivers down my spine. A feeling of unease settled in the pit of my stomach, and a cold sweat began to trickle down my forehead. My heart raced, pounding against my chest like a trapped bird trying to escape its cage. Just as I started contemplating the irrationality of my fear, there came a faint knock on my front door. The noise reverberated through the silence, a stark contrast to the cacophony of screams from next door. I froze, my eyes locked on the door, and a primal instinct warned me against answering it. But curiosity, as it often does, got the better of me. Slowly, I made my way to the entrance, my trembling hand reaching out to turn the doorknob. The creaking of the hinges filled the air, magnifying the tension in the room. As I pulled the door open, a gust of cold wind brushed against my face, carrying with it an unsettling presence. To my horror, standing on my doorstep was a figure enveloped in darkness, its features obscured by shadows. The air grew thick with an unexplainable malevolence, and a sense of impending doom washed over me. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words caught in my throat, as if the darkness itself had rendered me voiceless. Then, from the depths of the night, a familiar scream tore through the silence. It was no longer confined to the walls of the neighboring house. It was now echoing from within my own home. Panic consumed me, and I turned to flee, but my body betrayed me, refusing to move. The invisible grip of fear held me in place, rooted to the spot. As the haunting wail intensified, the figure on my doorstep stepped forward, revealing itself in the dim light. Its eyes were vacant voids, devoid of life, and a ghastly smile stretched across its face. I watched in horror as it extended its ghostly hand, beckoning me towards the unknown. In that moment, I realized the truth behind the screams. They were not the cries of a tormented soul confined to the neighbor's house. They were a warning, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked in the darkness, waiting to claim their next victim. The last thing I remember is the bone-chilling sound of my own scream mingling with the chorus of tortured voices. The darkness swallowed me whole, and I became another victim of the house next door, forever lost in its eternal nightmare. Years later, a young family moved into the same house I once called home. They were oblivious to the horrors that awaited them, the unspeakable evil that dwelled within its walls. The cycle of terror continued, the screams echoing through the night, driving the family to the brink of madness. One stormy night, as lightning streaked across the sky, the house came alive with a malevolent force. The family huddled together, trembling in fear, as the walls seemed to breathe and the floors creaked under an unseen weight. The haunting screams filled their ears, piercing their souls with an unimaginable agony. Then, in a horrifying twist, the screams transformed into demonic laughter, as if the entity that plagued them reveled in their suffering. The air turned suffocatingly cold, and the walls began to bleed, oozing a dark, viscous liquid that stained the floors. Shadows danced and twisted, taking on grotesque forms in the dim light. The family clung to one another, their eyes wide with terror, as the entity materialized before them. Its presence was suffocating, emanating an aura of pure malevolence. The demonic figure grinned, its razor-sharp teeth glinting in the eerie glow. It delighted in their fear, relishing the moment before it claimed their souls. With a blood-curdling scream, the family was consumed by the darkness. Their agonized cries merged with the haunting wails of the past, creating a symphony of suffering that echoed through the house, resonating for all eternity. And so, the house remained cursed, forever enticing unsuspecting souls with its facade of normalcy, only to trap them in its nightmarish grip. The screams of the past mingled with the screams of the present, a never-ending chorus of horror that served as a grim reminder of the unspeakable terrors that lurked within those haunted walls.